Everybody, thank you again for downloading the audio edition of Voice of Reason podcast. I'm Jake Schwartz, coming to you from the Dax Salas Athletic Center, known as the DAC at Drexel University. I'm about a few moments from now from having the new head basketball men's coach at Drexel University, Mr. Zach Spiker, part of the show we have today. We want to thank again all of our guests for joining us at Joshua-led City of Basketball Love Exposure Basketball Camp. Our thoughts and prayers. We want to take a sort of a slight break and tell everybody again how saddened we are by the passings of Philadelphia Eagles and Chicago Bear defensive coordinator Buddy Ryan, who passed away today at the age of 82. Pat Summitt also passing away today at the age of 64 after onset dementia. And our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Knoxville, Tennessee, as well as Rob and Rex Ryan. In a few moments, when we're going to take a little break, when we come back, we will be joined by the future of Drexel men's basketball and my good buddy Zach Spiker on a new high school and college sports show, Voice of Reason. Okay, we are back at another audio edition of Voice of Reason, the Voice of Reason podcast, back here at Drexel University, the home. Yes?
Am I calling you the voice on this?
All right. Once again, for another audio edition of Voice of Reason, and my apologies because I was actually stopped by our special guest again here today. We're coming to you from the home of 33rd Street, Drexel University. Our special guest today is none other than my good buddy, Zach Spiker, who in the last 5 seasons has become one of the most well-respected coaches in the United States, and coincidentally coached at Army and has had other good previous stints. He won 60 in his first 5 seasons, winning 65 games. Only 2 other coaches have done that. They just happen to be Hall of Famers, Robert Montgomery Knight and the immortal Mike Krzyzewski. I'm pleased to have with me on to an audio edition of the Voice of Reason podcast, my good friend Zach Spiker. Zach, how you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Happy to be here. Thanks for having us today.
Oh, you know, you're always welcome. You're worthy of being on Voice of Reason. You're always worthy being around the presence of the voice. Have an unbelievable amount of respect for you, and you know, within the last couple of weeks, you've really wasted no time. You were hired late March. It's now, I believe, June 28th, so just about close to 2 or 3 months ago, you were officially sworn in as the new coach at Drexel. I had the privilege of interviewing the old predecessor, James Bruiser Flint, who had almost 17 years here as the coach. Right off the bat, it sounds like things are going very well, because I know you've been very, very busy trying to lure players back and trying to keep this the tradition of Drexel basketball going, because we all know that people take this stuff pretty seriously down here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, they absolutely do, and they should. And we are, as a staff, we're very excited about the group of people we've been able to put together, including our coaching staff that has come from all different areas, and also the players that are jumping on board with our program. And first and foremost, the current players that are the guys that have stayed, have done a great job bringing the right attitude. And the guys we're adding will continue to feed that energy of trying to do things in the right direction. And listen, we're trying to do something that honors Drexel basketball. Anyone that's ever played here and coached here. And Coach Flint had a great career here, and we want to continue to do some positive things with this group of players that would honor him and his legacy coaching here at Drexel.
Yeah, you know, I've known you probably at least close to 10 years now. I remember going back to your days when you were an assistant coach with Steve Donahue, now the head men's coach at Penn over at Cornell, and a lot of people talking about that there's going to be a lot of fun between the two of you when you two get together. Now, have you already circled that date when you two are to meet? And I mean, I know you're going to have a lot of fun, but are you looking forward to going up against your old mentor?
Well, I don't know that you have a lot of fun when you play friends in the business, but you know, I really have a lot of respect for Coach, and he gave me a great opportunity at Cornell to be on the floor and recruiting at that age, and certainly it's great to have someone who's a mentor close by, but that game will be enjoyable for a number of people. I don't think Coach Donahue and I will be at the top of that list, though, when you compete against friends.
No, I can understand. I was going to say I can understand that completely. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff I could say about you. You have an unbelievable track record. I remember when you started at Ithaca and you kind of bounced your way. I mean, just can you rewind and just talk about how it all started for Zach Spiker?
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of things a lot of people could say. Some of them all wouldn't even be positive. So, we've been very fortunate just to work for a lot of good coaches, and I think the coach and the coaching staff that's had the biggest impact on me recently was the group of coaches that we had the chance to work with at Army. And Jimmy Allen, who's now the head coach there, is a very, very good basketball coach, a terrific tactician, and someone who I think is going to be very, very successful at West Point as a head coach. And we were fortunate to hire him there. It was one of the best decisions we've made as a coaching staff to get him on board. And in that time, he was a great sounding board and a mentor, and did a great job allowing to be a voice of reason, just like this show, the names, but to be a voice of reason.
Yes.
For a young coach. And then really, I think one of the more underrated basketball coaches in Justin Jennings, who just has a great feel for the game and situations and relationships with people. Was a big part of that senior class that graduated Army. He was their prep coach, and Justin poured into those guys when none of the rest of us were allowed to, with the NCAA rules, and built the foundation for the culture for that group that graduated. It was one of the best classes to ever graduate at West Point. A lot of it had to do with Justin Jennings' ability to motivate and coach those guys early on, and then had the chance to have him work with them full time the last 2 years when he came over from the prep school. So
yeah.
Justin Jennings, Jimmy Allen, I think Brandon Linton, and Drew Adams, all coaches that really we were able to learn from there at West Point.
And I know you've got a great coaching staff coming here. Before we got on the air, I remember you mentioning, and I've looked at a lot of your assistants, one of whom I remember growing up with as a kid. I played basketball at the Cheney Hill camp, and a young, short, with like dreadlocks literally down to his head by the name of Chris Clark was probably the most interesting person. Now he's on your staff. He has bounced himself around. What is it like having guys like Chris? And I know you know a lot about your staff. So what is the most important thing you're looking forward to rounding out this coaching staff?
Well, let's start with Chris, since you've talked about him. I think Chris, like all of our coaches, has tremendous character, and I think we hired a staff that will reflect the values of our program and represent Drexel University in the best possible light. Chris is showing me the ins and outs of the best places in Philadelphia to get a good bite to eat. Gave me a crash course on public transportation.
Now, you're originally from New York, if that's correct, right?
No, I grew up in West Virginia, but I spent a lot of time in New York, the last 18 years, 15 years in New York. So, but I think Chris Clark brings a local connection to a lot of people, but the thing that struck me the most was his ability to connect with student athletes and mentor them in a positive manner. And
he learned, in my opinion.
Excited to learn. We're excited to learn from him that he's played for Coach Cheney and Coach Dunphy.
How about Coach Speedy Morris in high school? He's not just one, but three of the most well-respected coaches, as you mentioned, in Philadelphia. Yeah. I would absolutely agree with that. Chris certainly will round out the local staff and the local type of connections. Because just think, we're about 8 days to go until the 2060 live period. This will be the first time ever at Voice of Reason we'll have live coverage of the recruiting period. I know that there's a very good chance you and I could be side by side together.
Maybe.
There's a very good chance. I'm going to say this right now. If we are at Elevate Hoops in Philly U, I am looking forward to that because there's only one person I'm going to sit down and talk with, and that's Zach Spiker. I'm going to stare him dead in the eye. But what I'm looking forward to again, let's talk about that, because the biggest name that's coming back, I'm told, right now, and I know you're still in the works of bringing more kids back, is Sammy Mojica. And how big is that to keep him? Because there was a rumor going around he was going to transfer. Now we're told he is staying.
Yeah, I think a lot of this ties into the same thing, and it's our culture.
Yes.
Our culture, and when we were putting this staff together, it was culture and character first. All right? It wasn't who do you know and what players can you get. It was, do you understand and believe what we can do here at Drexel? And I think we put together a staff that is a very talented staff that's got a wide range of experiences, professional, NBA, overseas, recruiting, and 3 guys who combined for 15 different trips to the NCAA tournament. I think that's it's a pretty strong resume for our coaching staff, and we're excited to have that experience. When you have that experience together, it makes guys want to be at their best, and they're challenging our players while encouraging them to get in the gym and to work on their game. And when guys see that, I think that makes them want to be a part of their program and want them to be better. So, you're always going to have personnel issues and personnel changes, and that happens, and that's human nature. And what we want to work on is having guys excited about being here, and I think we're making progress in that direction.
Among the teams you're going to be playing this year, you will go against, I believe, every school in Philadelphia in the Big Five, and that includes the national champion Villanova Wildcats. Oh, you are not playing them. I apologize. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But
we haven't released our schedule yet.
But you'll definitely play Penn now?
We're putting the finishing touches on our schedule right now, but it will be competitive. It will always have a Philadelphia flavor to it, as it should.
Sure.
And we'll play against Philadelphia schools such as St. Joe, LaSalle, and Penn. And other times in other years, if the schedule works out, we'd love the opportunity to play Villanova and Temple. And
I apologize. I apologize for.
Well, you wouldn't know because we haven't released it.
You're right. You are a very. And I'll tell you this. I always thought that I had the inside source over all these coaches. Apparently, I'm not as wise as I used to be. I guess that's what I thought. I thought I was a smart guy. I thought I was the voice.
Well, you are the voice.
Well, there's now. Let's again, because I know you're on a time schedule. We got about 4 more minutes left to go until your next meeting. Because you are as busy a man as ever. Nobody works harder. You are the youngest coach here in the City Six. When you think back to Jay Wright, who is the National Coach of the Year, or Fran Dunphy, who's had a national type of flavor, as well as Phil Martelli and John Giannini. What is your, goal as far as how do you plan to achieve this success and establish yourself not just in the local but in the national type of spotlight?
Well, our program is going to be known for our players, not our coaches.
I agree with that.
Okay, and
I agree.
There's some very talented programs and a lot of very well-respected and coaches that have done a great job, and you named a bunch of them right there. And we as a staff have great respect for all the coaches. Certainly what Coach Wright has done is obviously impressive. What Coach Martelli has done is equally as impressive, and the challenges they've had and the way they continue to sustain their success is very impressive. And Coach Giannini made a run to the Sweet 16 Elite 8 just a couple years ago.
Yes.
And Coach Dunphy's a Big Five Hall of Famer. So.
And I think he is a national coach, in my opinion.
They all are.
And I believe in my heart, as are you. You've had great success over the years.
I think the way we'll have success at Drexel will be that we build a culture that our players are excited to be a part of. They want to be here, and they're going to have the energy and enthusiasm on a daily basis to do those things to put us in a situation. So it's not going to be about our coaches. It's not going to be about myself. It's going to be about these players working as hard as they can and putting them in positions to be successful.
All right, I hear the door knocking, so I know that we are with that door. That means we're officially out of time.
For round one. And
at least for round one. Because I know, again, as mentioned, 15 minutes is just not enough. So we're definitely going to come back here, and we're going to have another, hopefully, hard hour, maybe half-hour conversation with Zach Spiker. Zach, we appreciate you stopping by. A pleasure, by the way, to see you, as always. And hopefully in about 8 days from now, when the official live period takes place, hopefully you and I will be side by side. That's Drexel coach Zach Spiker on another audio edition of the new high school and college sports show, The Voice of Reason podcast. All right, everybody, back here again at Drexel University, here at the Dax Center. I'm coming here from West Philadelphia. I want to thank my special guest, the new Drexel men's basketball coach, Mr. Zach Spiker, for coming on and talking about what it takes to win and what we can expect out of him just 8 days from now. Zach and his wonderful new staff will be on display all across the country as well as parts of the Delaware Valley. We'll hopefully be joining them side by side as they'll look to bring in the future Drexel Dragons of tomorrow. Well, that's going to do it here for another audio edition of the Voice of Reason podcast. And from all of us here at Drexel University, I'm Jake Schwartz saying so long. More basketball action again coming up soon, and we'll see you at the games.